Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be answering two of the most frequently asked questions regarding my tattoos. And those questions are, which tattoos were the most painful, and how much did your tattoos cost? By the way, if you haven't already checked out my previous video on my tattoo tour, I will link it above as well as below in the description box if you're interested. In that video, I showcased my arm sleeves, my chest tattoo, and my leg sleeve, and I also go over the amount of hours/sessions that each tattoo took to get completed. Definitely take a look at that if you're interested in seeing a more in-depth tour of each piece. So I wanted to make a dedicated video on the pain scale and cost because these are two of the most common things that people immediately think about when they plan on getting tattoos, whether it's their first tattoo or their 20th tattoo. But hold up, before I dive right into it, I just want to mention three really important things regarding the pain scale and the cost of these tattoos. Number one, everyone's pain tolerance is different. One person can say that their forearm tattoo felt completely painless, while another person can say it was the most painful tattoo that they've ever experienced. So just because one particular body part felt really painful to me, it may not feel as painful to you. And side note, a total of 5 artists have tattooed me, and 2 of them have personally told me that I have a very high pain tolerance, so just keep that in mind as I talk further on the pain scale of these tattoos. Number 2, the style of the tattoo plays a huge role as well. As you can see, I have many different styles on my body, and some tattoos are done in Blackwork style, like my arm and my dragon tattoo. So these particular tattoos, for example, hurt way more than my realism style pieces. And number 3, as mentioned previously in my tattoo tour video, I previously worked at a tattoo studio for about 2 years. I was able to get certain pieces at a highly discounted rate without tax or even for free. So I will make sure to disclose this as I go over each tattoo. So now let's finally get started. So far, I have my arms, legs, chest, hand, foot, ankle, and stomach tattooed. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. To kick things off, let's start from the top and work our way down the body parts. So first up is the chest. So the cherry blossoms on my chest took about 8 hours to complete, so that's about 2 sessions. In terms of the pain, 10 being the most painful and 1 being the least, I give the chest area a 5.5 out of 10, which honestly is pretty surprising because I expected the chest area to hurt way more than it did. As for the cost, because I was an employee at the time at the studio, I got a discount rate at 70% off. At the time, the artist's rate was $220 an hour. Therefore, I was able to pay $154 per hour instead. So in total, I paid about $1,200, but without the discounted rate, this would have been $1,760, not including tax. And by the way, I was fortunate enough to not have to pay tax for this. For arms, this one is going to be a little lengthy because there are different parts of the arms that are more painful than others. So I'm going to start off with the most painful parts, which for me are the inner bicep and elbow. I personally give the inner bicep area a 6 out of 10 on the pain scale, which is considerably high. The reason is because this area tends to be very sensitive and tender, and it also has sensitive nerves that run down the underside of your arm. For those who aren't looking to get a full arm sleeve but do still want tattoos on your arms, the best places would be the outer arm here or the forearm area. I'd give both of those areas a 3 out of 10. But if you do want a full arm sleeve, I'd say that the pain is obviously worth it. As much as it sucks, if you really do want the arm sleeve, you're just gonna have to suck it up and go through the pain. The next most painful areas of the arm for me is the elbow area. And this also includes the elbow ditch over here. I give both of these areas a 7 out of 10. And it was especially painful on my right elbow because as you can see, my right arm is done in a more intense style. And a lot of the ink is really packed in, especially in the elbow area. The reason why this area is so much more painful is because 2 of the 3 nerves in your arm run directly through the elbow ditch. And on top of that, the elbow ditch has the least amount of padding between the tattooing needle and the 2 nerves. In terms of cost, let's start off with the right sleeve. So this one took about 2 to 3 sessions to do, so around 14 to 15 hours in total. And this piece was completely free as it was a portfolio piece for the artist. However, I still gave him a generous tip in exchange. At the time, this artist's rate was $180 an hour, so it would have originally costed me $2,700, not including tax. tax. And just a quick side note, this artist rate has significantly increased. For my left arm sleeve, this took about 3 sessions as well, so around 16 hours in total, and the artist's rate at the time was $250 an hour. But just like my chest tattoo, I got a discount rate at 70% off. So instead of $250 an hour, I paid $175 an hour. In total, I paid $2,800 and I didn't have to pay tax, but it would have originally costed me $4,000, not including tax, if I wasn't an employee there. Next up is my hand, and I did not include this in my previous tattoo tour, so I'll quickly show a picture of it here. And I'm glad that this tattoo only took about a couple hours because it was quite painful. I'd give the hand about a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. And the reason is because it's a very bony area. And this tattoo was actually a gift, but it costed around $250 to $300. Next area is my stomach. So I have a dragon piece that starts on my stomach, but it extends all the way down to my thigh. I give the stomach area a 5.5 out of 10. There is padding in this area, which makes the pain a little more bearable, and there aren't any bones or cartilage either. But one thing I'll admit is that I'm very, very ticklish in the stomach area. So if anything, I wasn't even focused on the pain. I was just trying my hardest to not laugh. So apologies to Ted Kim, who did my dragon tattoo. I don't think I gave him a very easy time when he was tattooing my stomach. As for the cost, I will discuss it a little further in the video when I talk about the thigh area. All right, so now we're down to the hip. As you can see, my dragon tattoo goes over my hip, and because my hip is so bony, it was quite painful for me. I'd give this area about a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. I just remember trying my best to not flinch as he was tattooing my hip area. Next up are the legs. So this has a lot of different parts that I will go over. And just like the arms, there were definitely more areas that were way more painful than others. So I'm going to start off with the top of the thigh area. So as I mentioned, my dragon tattoo extends all the way down to my lower thigh. For the top of the thigh, I'd give this area a 4.5 out of 10. So out of all of the leg parts, I'd say the top of the thigh was the least painful for me. And this dragon tattoo took about 2 to 3 sessions to complete, so around 15 hours in total. Just like my arm piece, this dragon tattoo was also free, as it was a portfolio piece just like the arm, and they were also done by the same artist. So since his original rate at the time was $180 an hour, this would have costed me $2,700, not including tax. The next leg part is the inner and back of thigh. So I have a part of a food dog tattooed on the back of my thigh, which is connected to a leg sleeve, and I'm not exaggerating, this was one of the most painful areas for me. I give the inner / back of thigh a solid 8 out of 10. I know that this particular area can be super sensitive since some major nerves are found here. As much as I don't want to admit this was the first time I ever cried from a tattoo. Some of my tattoo artists would be so amazed at how well I would sit through a lot of these tattoos, so they were pretty shocked when they saw me crying while getting the back of my thigh tattooed. This particular area just hit different. So for any of those who are interested in getting a full leg sleeve, just keep that in mind. I will also talk about the cost a little later on in the video. I just want to go over the rest of the leg parts. So the next area is the knee / knee ditch area. So for me personally, the knee was still painful, but I wouldn't say it was more painful than the back of my thigh, although the majority of people would probably rate this area a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale, but for me, I'd give it a 7. However, the knee ditch for me is about the same pain scale as the back of thigh, so about 8, maybe even 9 out of 10. And the reason this area is so painful is because the sciatic nerve is located here, which is one of the largest individual nerves in the body, and it runs straight down the back of your leg through the knee ditch. The next area is the calves / shin area. I'd give the front of the calf / shin area a 6.5 to 7 out of 10, but I'd rate the back of the calf a slightly lower rate at either 5.5 to 6 out of 10. For me, the pain scale of these areas are relatively similar, but the shin area was more painful for me because it's bonier, so it's a very tender and sensitive area. So now let's finally reveal the cost of the leg sleeve. This took about 4 to 5 sessions to complete, around 27 hours in total. This was by far the most sessions and hours that I've ever had to sit through for a tattoo. And this was the same artist who did this arm sleeve. However, I got my leg sleeve before my arm sleeve. So at the time when I got my leg sleeve, his rate was lower at $200 an hour rather than $250 an hour. And I paid the same discounted rate of 70% off. So my discounted rate was $140 an hour. Altogether, this whole leg sleeve costed me $3,780 and I didn't have to pay tax. Without the discounted rate, it would have costed me $5,400. I actually have another calf tattoo. It's on my other leg, obviously, and I didn't include this piece in my tattoo tour video, so I'll quickly show the picture of it here. It's 2 lilies done in realism style. This piece was also free, and at the time, this tattoo artist was an apprentice. I remember she had become a full-time artist literally like weeks later after doing this tattoo. The estimated piece price of this tattoo would be around $800 to $900. All right, so last but certainly not least, we have the foot/ankle area. This piece was also not featured in my tattoo tour, so I will show the picture here. And it's a floral and bird piece, also done in realism style. As you can see, this right leg has become my realism leg. As you can imagine, the foot and ankle area are very delicate areas since there is no fat or muscle padding. That being said, I'd give this a 7.5 to 8 out of 10, so that is quite painful. And I believe this tattoo took about 6 hours to do. And because I personally knew the artist and it was a portfolio piece, I also got this one for free, but still gave a generous tip as always. And this would have easily costed around $900 to $1,000, not including tax. And there you have it. We finally reached to the end of the video. Remember, everyone's pain tolerance is different and the prices can vary depending on several factors. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. If any of you have any more questions regarding my tattoos, feel free to comment below. And for those who aren't following me on Instagram already, I do post quite a lot of tattoo photos on my Instagram. I'll put my Instagram handle here and I'll also link it down in the description box below. As always, thanks so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.